Mediums really we're here to be of service, to deliver a message that is meaningful, that will either be empowering or healing to the client. That's really all we want to do.
Hey, welcome everybody to Spirituality. If you're new here, my name is Kat. I'm a longtime astral traveler and spirit consultant. If you're returning, welcome and thank you. We love you so much. I am pleased to be joined today by Dr. Elizabeth Freed, the San Marcos medium. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I always enjoy being able to share my message with the world that anybody can become a medium.
Absolutely. And I'm always pleased to be a platform for our practitioners. And you identify as a medium by choice. Do you want to tell people about that a little bit?
Yeah, I really had no intention of ever becoming a medium. I had never had an awakening. I never heard from spirits. I never saw anything until, in my 20s, one time I had a jolting out of body experience, but I didn't really do much about that. It was a little scary to me at the time. And then when I was in my 40s, I was in my office of all things, and I was just talking on the phone to GE Aircraft Engine. I am a management consultant and an executive coach. And I was making an appointment when I noticed that the room had taken on a golden glow. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, you know. But I'm on the phone, I'm on a business call. And then all of a sudden, I felt this overpowering sense of love just surround me. And I didn't know what that was about. And I thought it was my husband walking into my office. And I was, wow, that was very nice. I was a little annoyed because I was on a business call. And I went to wheel around and say, hey, I'm on a business call. And there was no one there. And I went, woo. And the lady said to me, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. And then eventually that dissipated, the golden light, and then the feeling of love. And I went, oh my goodness, what was that? And I decided I kind of wanted to explore that, but I was running a business. I didn't have time. Well, now that I am retired, I decided to explore what that was all about. And I had taken some courses from the Monroe Institute and discovered that this course called Mediumship Toolkit. And I thought, I wonder what that's about. And I found out that anybody can be a medium.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. These abilities are the abilities of the human race. They're the abilities of our consciousness, and anybody can develop those skills. Can you tell me a little bit about like how you developed those skills? What were some of the practices that you used in brief to start working with some of those things? I think a lot of people would be interested in knowing how that goes.
Well, first of all, you learn that you have various clairs, and that's clairvoyance, you see, clairaudience, you hear, clairsentient, you feel, claircognizance, you just know. You have to meditate and identify your guides. And there are certain types of meditations that you go through so that you can identify who your guides are. And you get this collection of guides. And I remember the first time that I went, I was, wow, like, what am I going to do? What kind of guides are they talking about? And eventually it comes to you because you put yourself in an altered state and it allows you to be receptive. And there is a technique that I use where it's breathing and expanding and surrendering and shifting realities. It's a time consuming process. It's a real commitment. For those of us, there are people like the Long Island medium, Teresa Caputo. She sees things all the time. They come to her. That doesn't happen to me. I don't go walking down the street and I have somebody say something to me. That doesn't happen. I have to put myself in the right point, the right state of mind, in a slightly altered state, and that comes through meditation. Then I will connect with spirit. I will gather. I'm an evidential medium. So there's a difference between a psychic medium and an evidential medium. Psychics connect with the living. Evidential mediums only connect with the departed. So I'm not getting information from the client to make my reading. I'm getting a direct line from the departed loved one. So I go through this meditation to make that connection. And then once I do, I start to see things, I start to hear things, and I just start presenting this evidence that I get. Maybe after 5 or 6 pieces of evidence, I will say to the client, for example, I'm connecting with a male that passed between the ages of 50 and 60. He may have passed older than that, but presents younger. He looked younger than his age. So I'm seeing him the way either he wants to be seen, but that's what I'm seeing. He's very robust. He's rugged. He has a great sense of humor. He likes the outdoors. He has a dog following him around. He has an axe in his hand for some reason, and he's chopping wood. And so this would be the example of the kinds of things I would say. And then I would stop and I would say, do you understand any of that? What I'm doing is I'm verifying the evidence. And then the client will probably say, I know who this is. And once they verify they know who it is, then I will give them a memory that only they share with that spirit to further validate that the departed loved one that I brought through is this spirit. It's just important for them to know that their loved ones across the veil are there and that this is who I'm talking to. And then after they verify that, I will give them their message and we will debrief. Now, I'll give you an example. One of the things that I do in addition to, even though I'm retired, I still do commercials and print work. And I met this woman, we were helping out on somebody's passion project film, and she was a real actress. I mean, a professional actress. I'm just an amateur, okay? I really liked her. She was very nice. She was a Black woman, attractive, maybe 50 years old. And when she found out I was doing mediumship, she said, oh, well, I would really like for you to give me a reading. I said, okay, sure. Here's what I actually saw. I immediately got a vision of a Black man with a spear in his hand walking through the jungle. I see a man who's between the ages of 40, who passed between the ages of 40 and 50. He is really handsome, he is ripped. I mean, ripped in the sense that he's in great physical shape. And he is so confident as he's walking, almost warrior-like. Would you understand who I'm talking about? And she said, I have no idea who you're talking about. I said, okay, so let me go back and ask for more information. I said, he is saying something about, now I'm hearing, Black Panther. She says, nah, I never had anything to do with the political group Black Panther. I said, no, we're not talking about the political group. I said, I'm getting this kind of thing. He says, are you talking about Wakanda, Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman? I said, I think that's who this person looks like. And she says, oh, I knew Chad. I said, oh, you knew Chadwick Boseman? She said, yes. Before he became famous, before his career blew up, I used to see him at auditions. I said, really? She goes, yeah. And then he got married. His career blew up. We just didn't see each other. This was years ago. She said, why is he coming forward? Which brings something up. I have no control over what spirit is going to come up. Whoever comes is for the client's greatest good. So I said, well, I don't know, but let me just check and see if this is Chad. Well, I got the shivers run through me. And I said, well, let me see if he can share a memory with you. And then I see like a stage set with like the 2 actors' chairs, those canvas actor chairs. I said, he's showing me a stage set with 2 actors' chairs. And again, she says, well, no, we never did a film together. So then I give her message, and that's personal. I won't share that. But then we debrief. And she says, he was a really stand-up guy. He was always so nice and supportive. As a matter of fact, she says, he wanted to do a project with me, but I don't know, I was busy, wasn't available, I don't know what happened. I said, oh, he wanted to do a project with you. I said, that memory he shared with you about the 2 chairs that he showed me a film set, that was to trigger you, because I'm not supposed to do the interpretation. But now that you tell me this, it says to me that he wanted to remind you that he asked you to be on a project with him. So it's real interesting how this comes through in different ways with different people.
And I would love to dig into it a little bit more, like the difference between psychic mediumship and evidential mediumship, the difference between connecting here and connecting there, and sorting out the energies between them. Because I know for me, I get both.
Well, I try to keep it clean. Let's put it that way. I am not, I'm highly intuitive, and I know this from my business as an executive coach. I was affectionately known by my clients as the heat seeking missile because they would go into their whole story about what the issues were, blah, 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 blah. And I would go, yeah. And they would say, how could you see so clearly what the issue is? And I want to say, well, the rest of stuff is not. I mean, to me, it was like obvious. I didn't see that as being special. I just saw it as like logical, at the time. Now, maybe it was intuitive. I know I can get a vibe if I feel that even when when I used to do proposals or business and I would talk to a potential client, I could tell if this was going to be a good vibe or bad vibe, whether or not I wanted to do that business. If I had a client that was jerking me around and the potential client, I used to walk away. So that may have been somewhat psychic, may have been somewhat intuitive, but I just thought that was business. Never thought about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of the notion and the thought process that everything that we do is psychic to one degree or another. It's really just the degree to which we recognize it. So all of your senses, all of those feelings coming in is to one degree or another, it's all kind of psychic. We're all spirit living here on earth. I think
Right.
the degree to which we recognize and hone those skills is the only thing that varies.
What's interesting too is that I feel like my job is to connect with the spirit that wants to come forward for this person and not be influenced by the person. So, because I'm really looking at their greatest good, and they don't always know what their greatest good is.
Yeah, that makes sense, to just set the clear intention that that is what you're intending to do in this moment, is to connect to the other side, to bring information through and sort of just flip the channel the other direction, basically, instead of pulling it from here, pulling from the other side.
Right, because this is where you get the most astounding information, just the most astounding information. I had one situation where I got this word, the beginning word. I said, I got hell of a. Would you understand that? She said, no. I mean, like you're having a hell of a good time. No, she didn't understand that. So then all of a sudden I'm sitting there and go, okay, well, then I said, Wichita, Wichita. Would you understand? She goes, oh yeah, I understand that. So then I'm connecting with a woman who passed before she was 40, who happened to be her college roommate. And I said, I see this person not as a family member, but as somebody you knew from school, perhaps college. And she said, yes. And then I saw this smoking and I saw this drinking. These were symbols, because sometimes spirit talks to you in charades. Okay, you got to figure it out. You just got to say what you saw. And we definitely connected with this college roommate of hers. And at the end, I said to her, I said, when she passed, and I think we determined when she passed from like pancreatic cancer or ovarian cancer, something like that. I said, you went to her funeral. And she said, yes. I said, I see you I said, she have a closed casket? She said she didn't remember. But she said, but it was the first and only time I've ever been in Wichita. That's where this woman lived. So there you go. That was that first word that came through. So then before we were done, I said, she's leaving me with this statement of those were the glory days. Would you understand that? She said, more than you know. I said, what do you mean? She said, yes, those were the glory days. We had a hell of a good time. But she said her name was Glory. Like 1 out of every 10 times I'll have a mishit. But I don't beat myself up over it because I'm not perfect. And the world isn't perfect, and you don't lay blame on anybody when these things happen. They just happen. And they make probably happened for a reason. I don't know what the reason is. It's frustrating to me when that happens. Mediums really we're here to be of service, to deliver a message that is meaningful, that will either be empowering or healing to the client. That's really all we want to do. People come to us because they're either saddened, grieving, they want to know that they want closure, they want peace, they're curious, whatever the case may be, and we want to deliver. And particularly a person like myself who is used to delivering to outcomes with solid stuff, when when it doesn't happen for me, it's very frustrating. But I've learned to say, well, it happens.
Well, definitely, there can be all kinds of things that are interfering energetically. It may not just be a good time for the connection to come through, and it may have nothing to do with you at all. Nobody performing their skill is perfect at it 100% of the time. So some understanding along those lines, I think, is good for people, for clients to know. Like, if you went to somebody and nothing came through on that occasion, doesn't necessarily mean that one, that they're not real, or two, that nobody wants to talk to you. I think that's the hardest thing, right? Is making people feel like nobody wants to talk to them from the other side. That's not the case, and that can be
No, it's
sad.
not the case. The
Yeah.
spirit world loves us and they want to guide us and they want us to feel, cared for. It's sometimes, you're talking to a client and they're so overwhelmed or they're so overcome with the information that you give them, they can't speak and they can't even process it. It's not until sometimes days later that it makes sense to them. And we as mediums have to be empathetic and patient with these people because of course we want feedback. Yes, we got it, we've made we've given you closure, we've done all these things. Well, it's not about us. We just have to understand that we're here for a purpose, we're here to serve, and that's really all that we can do. I do pro bono coaching and have for the past 8 years with this organization called the Honor Foundation, and it serves special operations, military, Navy SEALs, Marine Raiders, Delta Force, Army Rangers, to help them transition from the military to the civilian workforce. And my professional background as a human resource person, executive coach, I help them identify their skills and how they translate to the civilian workforce. So I've given them my talent and my time when I do this. I have not given them my treasure. Now I have money set aside for them in my will, but I said, well, that's great, but do I have to be dead for them to grow their program? So when I got involved with mediumship, I made the commitment that all funds that I earn through mediumship are directly donated to the Honor Foundation. So this way, it's serving the client with a good message, and it's serving my nonprofit by contributing to their programs and giving them funding for that. So I'm serving them as well. I'm doing double service, which I like the idea.
No, that's amazing. And here at the end of the episode, I'll give you a chance to shout out that website. We'll link it in the description. People who want to contribute, get a reading, and have those proceeds go to a good foundation as well. We'll make sure all of that stuff gets linked because it's an excellent cause and it's a beautiful way to use your skill to give back to people. So I appreciate you sharing that and doing that. We had talked a little bit about before, for people who are looking or curious or interested in connecting with somebody who's a medium or connecting with a loved one. How do you feel people should keep an eye out for things or red flags in certain practices where things just don't seem quite authentic?
Okay, well, first of all, a medium, when you're talking to a medium, they should not be asking you questions about yourself. They should simply provide you with information. If they say something like, well, do you have your grandparents across the veil? Or do you have a loved one, and ask you specific, they're supposed to tell you that. They're supposed to give you the information that you verify. If a legitimate medium is going to give you information without you asking, and then only asking you to verify it by saying yes, no, I don't know, maybe. And then once you validate that, then they can give you more. They'll tell you about personality characteristics, physical characteristics, interests, hobbies, do they have a dog? Yesterday, there was somebody that I did a reading for, and I said, do you have any questions afterwards? And she said, I want to know if he's mad at me because of karma. And I didn't know what she meant by that. And I'm thinking, what did she cheat on him or something? I didn't know. And I said, Karma, did you do? She goes, no, Karma was our dog's name. I said, okay. I said, what about Karma? She said, well, I had to put Karma down and I want to know if he's mad at me for that. And that was a different situation. I said, well, let me go ask. And then I said to her, I didn't say, what kind of dog is Karma? All right. I didn't do that. I said, well, let me go ask. And then I asked and I go, wait a minute. Was Karma a medium-sized dog was Karma a terrier? And she said, yes, Karma was a terrier. Now that was different because I saw the dog and I validated the dog. Now I should have said it like, would you understand that Karma was a terrier? It's a different way of wording it, but it was like such a shock. And then of course I determined that it was fine. It was Karma's, he was with Karma. Karma was happy with them. They were now together and Karma, it was time for Karma to go. And it was okay. And they're not in pain anymore and all that other kind of good stuff. So, but that's the kind of thing you wouldn't, a good medium isn't going to say, well, what kind of dog was Karma?
Yeah.
So.
Sharing the impressions rather than poking for information, for sure. And it's interesting how things come through sometimes. Like, I didn't mention this earlier, but the random example that you gave earlier, like, I do have an uncle who died in his 50s or 60s, but presented younger, was an outdoorsman all his life, like lived on 150 acres and worked on a mountain, did clear wood, had an axe, and had a dog that followed him around. And the dog actually, like, shortly thereafter died and followed him, went with him. So it was an odd synchronicity, right? Like, that's funny because that's that random scenario that you brought up. It's exactly for somebody I know.
That's funny, and I don't know how that came. I'm just coming up with things that I wasn't necessarily tuned in, but that's just kind of what I came up. That's what came into my sphere. I guess that's the best way I could describe it. When I was at a psychic fair, somebody asked me if I could connect with animals, and I said, "Well, I've never done that before." And I departed animals. What happened was somebody asked me to do this. I'd never done it before. So I put it out there on Facebook and I said, listen, somebody wants me to connect with animals. I need to practice this to make sure I could do it. I know animals are sentient beings. I think I can, but I've never really done it with animals before. So anybody that has a departed pet, let me know. Free reading, no problem. So about 7 or 8 people came forward. Of the 8 people, I was able to connect with 7. This woman, she was a colleague, she had a pet donkey. And I didn't really know what donkeys kind of look like. I was thinking mules, but I'm thinking donkey, okay. So I I connect with her donkey, Winston. And I said, Winston was brown. She said, no, Winston was not brown. So I said, okay. And then I said, oh no. I think I'm going into my logical brain because I'm getting this silly sombrero Mexican hat with donkey ears coming out of it. I don't think I can do this. She goes, oh, I understand that. I said, you do? She said, yeah, I used to dress him up in costumes all the time. I said, would you understand something going on with Winston's mouth or lip or teeth or gums? And she said, you're in the right place. You want me to tell you? I said, no, don't tell me. I need to ask more. So I go back to Winston and I'm asking, and all of a sudden I hear it loud as can be, tobacco. And I say, tobacco? Would you understand that? And she says, oh yeah. You want me to tell you? I said, no, don't tell me. I have to do more. So I was kind of stumped. And, it's really up to the client to interpret. She knew exactly what I was talking about, not for me to. So I said, okay, you can tell me. What does that mean? She says, he passed of oral cancer. So here's how spirit works. A lot of people who chew tobacco get oral cancer. And the donkey was telling me I died of oral cancer. All right. And validating that is how he passed. So Then I heard the 25. I said, now he's saying 25. Do you understand that? She goes, yeah, he was about 25 when he passed. I said, now I'm getting the number 5. I was really confused. And she said there were 5 donkeys in the herd. So I said, okay. I said, now he's showing me that you did not keep him in a barn, that he was always outside. She said, that's true.
Mhm.
And she was so relieved to know that he was okay. So I will do that on occasion. And then I wound up taking an animal communications course just in case
Mhm.
that there was something new I needed to learn. And I did. I learned a few extra things, but they operate just like humans do in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to offer that as well because people do truly feel just as connected, just as soul family with their family pets, as they do with family members. A lot of times, those connections can be even more, uh, in a lot of ways, more meaningful because those pets were there with you every day. They were in the immediate household. They're a source of mutual comfort, animals and humans, and so those connections are really special to people, and it's nice to be able to offer that for individuals as well, for sure.
Yeah,
do you want to
absolutely.
do you want to let people know where your website is and how they can
Yes,
you?
yes, absolutely. My website is Elizabeth Fried, and Fried is spelled Fried, elizabethfried.com/medium. It's that simple. And then it just tells you what process you need to go through. I keep my fees at a very reasonable rate because I'm not here to get rich. I'm here to serve, but I want to also raise money for my charity. So that's how we go about it.
Awesome.
That's
And I think that's an excellent way to get a reading and help with charities as well. I will link that in the description for people. Do you also have on your website or have a link to if people are wanting to develop those skills? Do you have a link or a website for that as well?
I don't, I would just say to them to go to the Shift Network,
Okay.
SHIFT, Shift Network. It's called shiftnetwork.com, I think. I took courses from a fantastic woman called Suzanne Giesman. And I also took a course from the Monroe Institute. 2 different instructors. One is a natural born medium, and she was very interesting. The interesting thing is, though, with natural born mediums, they don't quite understand how hard it is for those of us that are not natural to this to go through it. It's hard. I mean, it is for me, as opposed to somebody that, they've been doing this their whole life. They've been getting messages their whole life. That wasn't true for me. Suzanne Giesman was or is a retired naval commander, and she worked with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And talk about the straightest arrow going. Like myself, her background is leadership and development and that kind of thing. Very left brain, never had an experience like this in her life. She took courses from the Arthur Findlay School in England and then studied under Mavis Patilla, and now teaches her own classes. And I took an 8-week class from her, and I took a 10-week online class from her. And I just got back from a cruise where she offered a 14-hour workshop. It was a cruise in the Mediterranean. And what was so fantastic about this is of the 2,000 people on the cruise, 450 were part of her workshop. So to be with 450 like-minded people where you could talk about this and not have people go, oh yeah, and roll their eyes at you. It was great. That part was really great, and I really appreciated that. So I would say the Monroe Institute offers courses in mediumship by a natural born medium. The Shift Network offers courses by Suzanne Giesman, and they are extremely well structured. And everything is very, very professionally done. And I learned a ton. So I would encourage people, if they have an interest, to do that. They're great.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing those resources with people. I really appreciate that. Thank you for sharing your skills with people and for giving back to the community. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the work that you're doing so much.
Well, thank you, Kat, for inviting me and having me and letting me share my story. I really enjoy doing that. And I just really want to make sure that people are served in the way that they need and want. And my whole goal is to give people what they need and more than they expected. That's my goal.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me. And thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate you so much. Like, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. Follow the links and check out Elizabeth Freed, Dr. Elizabeth Freed. And we will see you guys next time on Spirituality.